Welcome to the Men After God podcast, where you will be challenged and encouraged as you pursue God, achieve success, and raise a thriving family. Join your host, Dustin, and his guests on a weekly journey to grow as husbands, fathers, and men after God. Here is your host, Dustin Alley.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Men After God podcast. I'm excited to have my friend Steve on here with me today. You know, every week we've had just such amazing guests come on, share value from their lives, how they have either failed or succeeded, and having that rhythm and balance of life of achieving success with a thriving faith and family. And I don't think any of us that are listening, and I know Steve and I that are going to talk today, we've not been perfect at it. And guys, you're probably not either, man. And that's okay. Hey, listen, it's not about being perfect. You need to be present in the moment with your family when you're there, present when you're on the job and taking care of business, and then obviously ensuring you have a time of presence with the Lord that you're taking on a daily basis. And don't forget, the more important matters of life is not the amount of zeros you can have in your bank account. It's the amount of it's the quality of the relationships you have with your Savior, with your sons, with your daughters, with your spouse. And so make sure that you're investing in the right things. Steve has got a fantastic story. He spent a lot of time, 25 years or so, in youth ministry. And now some of you that are listening, again, we want to be talking to many of you that aren't in ministry. And so when you hear that, you could kind of think, oh, he was a youth pastor and just played games all the time. You're going to hear that it's a little bit more than that. And I think you'll be able to relate really well. And then he's started a nonprofit called Mission NextGen. He's going to share that with us. We're going to hear about his story of his family and how he's navigated these things. And I know you're going to walk away with value today. So without further ado, Steve, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, what's going on, Dustin? You all right today?
No, brother, I'm doing. It's New England at the time of this recording. New England's doing what New England does. It's cloudy, it's rainy, and I wouldn't have been upset if I'd stayed in bed a little longer today.
Yeah, facts, man. I'm telling you, it gets tougher and tougher as we get into these fall days, man. Enjoying the breeze coming in. It's a little bit more sunny down here, but in Augusta, Georgia. So yeah.
Oh yeah, man, you're down there in God's country. You know, I'm from 100%. Tennessee, and when I first started up before we were recording, for those that are listening, I was wearing my University of Tennessee hoodie, and so I got to represent them even when they lose to Florida. But that's a story for another podcast, and I guess I need to increase my prayer life. But so Georgia, now you said you're a Florida State fan.
Yeah, I'm a Florida State fan, man. And again, nothing against my Georgia friends, and I don't have very many Georgia friends, but there's a lot of Georgia acquaintances because, man, some of these Georgia fans are rough, especially since they've won the last 2 years. So
they're starting to get that Alabama complex, right? I'm really loving Alabama's season this year, though. And so if you're an Alabama fan, we pray for you, and but at the same time, we relish in your failures right now. And
That's right. Yeah.
we hope you're doing okay, but we're glad to see your team losing.
Facts.
Oh man. Well, hey, listen, let's talk about your family for a minute. Tell us about your wife, your kids, and kind of what they've got going on, and then just start talking about your time entering into youth ministry, and just share your story with us, bro. I know we're going to learn from you.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. Listen, I really truly married someone who is way beyond my capacity, man. Her name's Sarah. She's beautiful. We've been married for 25 years. We actually got married and started a new ministry job right off the bat, and it was just it's been 25 years of reward for her in heaven because she's had to put up with this guy, and there's nothing been more rewarding than our relationship, the good, the bad times, the ugly times, the times that grew us to where we're at today. And I can truly say that not just as one of those things that you just say just because you're online kind of thing, but our marriage is stronger and better than it's ever been, just because it has grown through all those times that we've been through. And But Lord has blessed us with 3 kids that really aren't kids anymore. I've got a 21-year-old that's about to get married in December to a middle school pastor. And gosh, I was like, did you not learn anything? Like,
well,
I'm your dad.
Dad just having fun all the time. I was like, yeah, let's let him have fun all the time. That'll be
well. Unfortunately, she got more of a vantage point of beyond the fun. She got to see the hard times too, and I'm like, we almost had her drug tested. Like, what's up, right? But no, she loves Jesus, and she's loving this road of getting married. I mean, we truly are blessed to have a young man that loves Jesus more than her, which makes him love her the right way. And and so that's been a blessing. I've got her name's Rachel. She's going to be a teacher, elementary education major, and all that. And then but her sister, who's our middle child, Abby. I've always said if you've met Abby, you've gotten a hug, because she loves people. She loves life. She's in college right now, also to be a teacher, to be a middle school math teacher. Her mom's a math teacher, so she's kind of following in some of those footsteps. Bless their hearts for that.
Amen. Right? No.
Yeah.
Teaching middle school anything is it is what it is, but teaching the math no, I'm all right.
That's right. I was like, hey, if you need help with long division, I'm your guy. Okay. Beyond that,
I don't even do long division well. I tell you what, I did learn, oh man, what was it? I can't remember. I was, we started a school when I was a youth pastor, and I started helping with tutoring. I did tutor with math, but I was working with, I guess they were middle school, 7th, 8th grade. And they were working with a curriculum that was teaching them how to do square roots without a calculator. And it's pretty easy for the ones that are perfect squares, but when you get outside of those perfect squares, you've got some work to do. And that was, no, I'm teaching to them. They go, okay, yeah, but how? And I go, I don't know. It's what the book says. I got nothing. Just memorize the book.
when it goes from numbers to letters, man, you've lost me. I'm done. So, but no, she is, man, she's in her second year of college, and she's going at it with everything. And again, she loves Jesus as well, and very active at her church and college ministry. And she's got a older lady that's not old in age, but older than her, that's pouring into her and mentoring her once a week. And I'm just so grateful. You pray for that for your kids, that other people other than you will be able to pour into them, where it helps them in their walk with Christ. And so that's been good. Awesome. And then we have our youngest son. He's our son. His name's Ellis, and he's our Renaissance man. He loves to sing. He loves to act, but he also loves sports, man. He's like, he could tell you everything about football coverage to a baseball lineup to whatever. I mean, like he's our retirement plan, we call him, because he's super. Not that our other kids aren't smart, but they're going to be teachers, and so we're not sure what he's going to be.
Yeah. But that salary is not going to cover your yacht,
Yeah, for real. Yeah, all for ministry.
Amen. All right, the people of Fiji need the gospel, and I'm going to have to take a trip there.
100%. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's good. So you were in youth ministry, raising kids, married. You said you jumped right into it. Now, what was that like for you guys? Tell me, where did you go to a Bible college, seminary, and then jump in, or what was the process of getting into that?
So in all honesty, school was not a huge thing in my life growing up. I've learned disabilities, different things along those lines. But when I got into school, I did go off to college, went to North Greenville College, or now North Greenville University. We got to a place where financially everything was just kind of running over at the top of, or for me personally, and then had an opportunity to help plant a church with my youth pastor. And so we kind of put that on pause and dove into ministry at that point as a young married couple. Sarah and I, we always say we grew up together. Because we've been married longer than we haven't been married. And so we learned what it was like to be married, learned what it was like to be an adulting 101, at a young age. And, and we wouldn't change it for anything. And, because we just kind of dove in and made a lot of mistakes early on, just with the valuing of our time, each other, unspoken expectations, all those things, man. And
how old were you guys when you got married?
So I was 22, and my wife, she was 18. So
I was 19. She was 18.
Yeah.
So we were right out of high school too, man. It was. I tell people, I want to get married young. They're like, well, you did it. I'm like, yeah, but you do not know what we went through to be where we are right now. And like, you've got to be ready for that. That's a huge thing to be ready for. And
our story doesn't have to be your story. It's whatever, and so 25 years later, we love Jesus and love each other more than ever. But if it's not what the Lord is walking you into, it is definitely not something to run into.
Oh man, that's marriage, business, ministry, everything. I hope you just heard that statement. That's going in the show notes. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So let's go. You got out of college, you jumped into ministry with your wife. So you started to plant the church. Is that where you got into youth ministry?
Yeah, so I felt like I had a call when I was in high school, just like a lot of students. Well, not as many students today feel that call to ministry. They're not really, as Shane Pruitt would say, they're not calling out the called anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like there was a call in my life to go into ministry, and my youth pastor was such a huge part of my life that and pouring into me and walking me through things that it was kind of the natural audience I felt like the Lord was calling me to minister to. And so that was what I was pursuing going into. I had a desire to be what other people were for me. And
Yeah.
so youth ministry was just like that perfect fit, for
Mm-hmm.
me in that moment. So
That's interesting you should say that, because I've found, where God has led me in life and the desires He's put in my heart is kind of the exact same thing. Either I've found myself trying to become what was best for me, or what I needed, or what I thought I needed, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, trying to take my own personal experience and how God has worked in my life and just deliver that over to a next generation, deliver that over to just other peers. And that's, honestly, I think we can look at scripture and we see that discipleship. I've been preaching this recently. I preached a series titled Apprentice, being an apprentice of Jesus, and how the word apprentice speaks more to becoming like the master. And which is what discipleship is we're trying to be more like Jesus. Right. However, in Christianity, sometimes I think we relegate the word discipleship to like a 12-week program or something that we're just going through and like, oh, I did a discipleship program. Well, that's fantastic, but are you a disciple? And are we trying to become more like Jesus? And that happens, in my experience so far, the best way it happens is people walking together and just sharing life together. I mean, I had a guy come to our church and he unfortunately went through a divorce and was talking to me. And I said, I've never experienced that. And you think as a pastor, like, okay, I'll sit down and do counseling or do this, do that. But I'm not the best for that for a couple of reasons, but I've never experienced divorce. But I got two good men in our church who love Jesus, have unfortunately been through that have come out the other side, are doing great. And I connected with him for them to walk together and pour into. And so have you seen that as well, of just, whatever you've been through or needed or wanted, like pouring back? You said you did it with yours. Have you seen it outside of just your own life?
Yeah, for sure, Lan. I'm telling you that it's the Romans 8:28, for we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose, like all things. And so when I look back on the good experience, the bad experiences, the struggles, the celebrations, like those are things that are preparation for ministry. Because if we're alive and God has us here for such a time as this, it's for the sake of ministry, to make Him known. And I can't tell you how many times I have found myself across the table, drinking coffee or having lunch with somebody that is going through the exact same thing, different time, different location, but same type of situation that I have been through, that I could sit there and say, brother, man, I can empathize with you. I can walk with you. That hard time you just got out of at your church, or that hard time in your life, or the struggle in your marriage, man, I got you. And, but just like you, if I can't, then I try to connect people with those like situations, because they're out there. And for the sake of that ministry to that person, that student, that parent, that friend, man, it's so worth it to be able to walk with them, to see that there is another side, and that God can use it, that one day they're going to be across the table from somebody else doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, man, that's wonderful. And you hit on just the breadth of youth ministry there in your statement there. You're talking to a student, a parent, a friend. That was something that I learned I wasn't expecting. So, I mean, my story, I didn't grow, I kind of left church when I was about 13 years old. So when I would have had a youth pastor, I definitely walked away and was away until I was about 24, 25, and then came back. And so, but when I was in that role, I thought I was there to minister to the students. And while yes, that's happening, you end up really connecting with the parents, and two things. One, the strength of the connection with the parents will determine the strength of the influence on the student. And then two, you'll find yourself either helping them as they parent, helping them in their relationships. And you're almost, youth pastor is not a bad title, but it's almost like family ministry.
Oh, for sure. That's
and you approach all that. What are some things that, you don't have to share names and things like that, but what are some times that you've had to, kind of invest into a family as a whole during your time in youth ministry that really stood out to you?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Family ministry is what it should be called across the board,
Mhm.
because honestly, it starts, as we know, student ministry is it should be a partnership with parents in raising the student,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, and so there are times where parents will just drop them off and say, "Hey, do what you can with them," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Whoa, time out, time out. This is, it's your job first. I'm here to walk with you and empower
Yeah.
you." But then that means that I'm going to have to pour into them and maybe even help disciple them so that they can start pouring into their kids that way as well. But yeah, there are so many times where you're walking with a whole family.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, one of the best times of my life in ministry have been outside of the four walls of the church. It's been actually coaching. I love coaching.
Oh,
I've coached baseball. I've coached basketball, many sports, and man, coaching is one of those times where you almost spend more time with students on the field or on the court that than you do in the church or at home, and so we've had some really good times of pouring into students in that way, and one of the toughest times of my life in ministry, but some of the best times of walking with people through the tough moments is when one of my baseball players, named Drew Passmore, passed away in a car accident
oh man.
his senior year, and because I had a relationship with his parents as well as him, I was able to walk with him and with his family, and with the players, with their families as they were dealing with their just the mourning that they were experiencing, as I was experiencing, as we all
Right.
were.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be able to have that unless there was that relationship with the parents, with the relationship with the family.
Yeah.
And so I think no matter where you're at, whether it's in ministry, whether it's just life circumstances, connecting beyond just that individual person and getting into their lives allows you to minister way beyond, but specifically with the family for sure.
Yeah, just as a Christian man in general, talking to our audience here, guys, Steve's really highlighting on from a youth pastor perspective, how our life is more relational than it
Mm-hmm.
is role based. Our roles can determine some decisions and authority or responsibility we may have, but the relationships that we have is what is going to help us be able to disciple better.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I found, Steve, that you mentioned was some of the best times I had was outside of the four walls of the church. I learned, I spent 3.5 years on staff as youth pastor. And during that time, it probably took me 6 months to a year to learn quickly that the time I spend with them at church during the
Mm-hmm.
required programming times I had to be there wasn't the most important time I had with them. It was when I could go to a game. It was when I
Mm-hmm.
could go have coffee. It was when we could interact outside of the required times. And I think that speaks to just how teenagers and just people in general can sense the authenticity of an individual. Like, are you only around me because you have to be? Or are
Right.
you actually here for me?
Mm-hmm.
And so, as guys in the church and excuse me, as guys in the church and you're, serving there and you're with your family and you're with other people, just remember, take that in consideration, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
business relationship or, working with teenagers or anyone else, like make that relationship more than just the required time that you have to spend together. And
Yeah.
now you went through this youth ministry time of 25 years and you're still kind of doing that, just
Mm-hmm.
not underneath a church capacity.
That's
It
right.
doesn't sound like, I don't know if you're still
Right.
serving in a
Correct.
way, but you have your nonprofit now, Mission NextGen.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where that came from. What
Mm-hmm.
prompted you to start this? What's it all about? And
Mm-hmm.
just give us some stories about it.
Yeah, so probably I guess it was around about 2 years ago now, a little over 2 years ago. We were at the church I was serving at, and it was actually the anniversary Sunday, and the pastor did this illustration of writing down what the Lord has been showing you on these stones, and to go place these stones like at the altar, those kind of unique kind of
Object lesson
illustrations,
type thing.
object
Yeah.
lesson things, and I honestly, it's like the question is, what would you want him to do? What is he doing? All these things. And I was at a point where I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know.
Mm,
I'm a pastor in this church, and I don't have anything to write on this rock, and I'm
yeah.
like,
Oh
okay,
boy.
we're supposed to lead the way, and I'm going to take this rock and put it down, and
Yeah. Pastor, I need to talk to you. That's what.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm like, are they watching me now? Am I going to pretend like I'm writing something? But I really just started just praying, God, like, what's next? What is it? Because I'm not, at that point, I wasn't like saying, oh, I'm discontent where I'm at. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. It's just, I don't know. And so I just put that question, what's next, with a question mark on it. And I went down and I laid that at the altar, and I just kind of just prayed, okay, God, I'd leave it in your hands. I mean, if this is where I'm at and this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 25 years or whatever that may be, whatever it is, God, I'm yours. You just show me. It's the old Henry Blackaby, when he used to say, see where God is at work and join him in that, and so that's really what I wanted to do in my life at that point, for my family, for my marriage, ministry, all those things. And so I started asking that question and praying. That was my prayer. I wrote it on my board in my office, what's next. I eventually took that rock, I found it and put it on my desk, and I was just like, okay, where's this going? And so fast forward probably to probably the April or March of that next year. I'm at a conference that's a NextGen Gen conference. There's a couple guys speaking and talking about next generation ministry and just laying out statistics and surveys and about this generation, Gen Z. And I'm just like, man, I've been a student pastor for however many years, and for the very first time, I feel like I actually know the audience that God has calling me to, and how much of a need there is to reach this generation specifically. That if it was another country somewhere else, we'd mark them a lost people group, and we would send money, we would send missionaries, we'd send all these people to these things and to this group to reach them for the sake of the gospel. And it just stirred inside of me, okay, God, what is this? And just not realizing that he was answering that question, what's next for me? Fast forward a little bit more, our church post-COVID was not financially as good as it needed to be. And things started growing. Our pastor pulled me aside and said, hey, there's a chance that your job after this year will shift and change. Could be going back bivocational, could be complete layoff. And the closer we got to the rest of the year, the more and more started leaning towards the fact that it was definitely changing to part-time. And so I was like, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do, is start coaching and mentoring and walking with youth pastors. I had a network of youth pastors that I poured into on a monthly basis, and maybe I can increase that on a weekly basis or daily if for some of them. And so the Lord started putting on my heart this idea of Mission NextGen, to train and equip those who are training and equipping the next generation, and to care for them, to keep after it, even disciple some of them, because so many of them you're coming into things and with a degree or ministry mindset, but they haven't truly been discipled themselves. And so a lot of that was coming to play. And then by the time we got towards the end of the year, around November of this past year, I was informed that it was going to have to be a layoff situation. And so what I thought I was going to do as a part-time launch of a ministry, it now has become a full-time mindset. And I was like, okay, God, you answered the question, what's next?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask you the question, how are you going to provide next?
Let me pause for just a second, Steve, because that question, when you asked that question, when you mentioned that you asked that question, but that's what changed my life. My pastor preached a message and said, what's your next step of faith, and why aren't you taking it? And I was like, I'd been a youth pastor. I was 3.5 years in. I'd completed my master's earlier in the year. And, I was content. Youth ministry was going well. We'd started a school, had been operating for a couple of years. Things were running smooth. Church was doing financially well. We were growing. I mean, everything was great. And he said that, and I was like, I don't know what my next step of faith is. Like, what is it? God, what do you want my next step of faith to be? And then he answered me. And I was like, no.
That's not it.
No, hang on, God. I know, because when I got called to ministry, I knew God was calling me to a lead pastor position. And he said, if you will, I don't verbally hear God, but you know what I mean? Like, he's lead pastor. I'm like, no. I know eventually. I mean, like right now, in the next 6 months to a year, what could I do? Lead pastor. God, you're not hearing me. Okay. And so I want to just tell our guys, like, excuse me, you need to ask that question from time to time.
Yeah.
Because I think when we open ourselves up to ask that question and receive what God has for us, we might get our life shaken up a bit, but it's truly, we're to walk by faith. And sometimes we get content and complacent when God's saying, no, it's time to go by faith again. And it doesn't always get answered the way that we might hope. But man, look what God's done with that now. So you transitioned into it full time. And then now how long have you been doing that, and what's it looking like now?
So full time since about January this year, beginning of the year. Really just been taking it on, and it's crazy how you talked about that making us uncomfortable, because there are so many times in this past 4, 5, 6, 7 years of our life in ministry that we've really become comfortable. We've seen ministry, different churches that we've been a part of grow from very little to a great mass of people through discipleship and through, pouring into students and training leaders and those kind of things. And there becomes a comfort to where we feel like it's within our own power that we're able to accomplish these things. And it's not that we become our own God, but it's like we lose a sensation of adventure in our lives and our calling. And so it's almost like God kind of shakes it up a little bit, and he takes you into a place where you truly have to depend upon him. That is by his might and his power, by his spirit. It's the daily manna. It's the things that you kind of say, okay, I know God's going to provide, and how is he going to do it today? Almost in an excitement of like, okay, how is he going to do it this time? Right. Case in point, when we started in January, we were doing fundraising, we were doing things because I'm doing this as a missionary, not as a paid by, job experience or whatever that may be. If I come into your church and I offer you this service, blah, 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 you pay me by that. I'm doing it as a missionary. So we're actually supported by individuals. We're supported by churches as a missionary. And people are like, wait a second, you're going to be a missionary to Augusta, Georgia? And I'm like, well, yeah, Augusta and beyond. I mean, I'm not just here in Augusta doing this. I'm doing it in other places across the United States. But the truth of the matter is if this lost people group is worth reaching, they need missionaries that are specifically going to do those things and help empower the local church, the pastor, whatever it may be, to be able to reach this generation. And so, we went on the fundraising mindset, and we're just right around that 50 to 55% covered in the sense of financially to where we can do this. And we were at the point around March where we're going to have to make a decision of, am I going to have to go get a job at Costco? Am I going to have to find another ministry job? What are we doing? Wow. And out of nowhere, this opportunity through Send Relief and the national organization, for a ministry event that was going to come to Augusta, they needed a projects manager as a 1-year contract. And so I applied and interviewed and got the job. And it just so happened that it was the exact amount that we were short to be able to be fully funded. I was like, okay, God, there's our daily manna, so it just reminds us that he's going to do these things. And so now we get to see, between now and this coming February, when that contract ends, okay, God, how are you going to provide this time, to continue, and so it's exciting to watch. A little unnerving sometimes, being real. But
absolutely, brother. What I loved about your story, and this is what I always, anytime I talk, because a lot of my connections, I have some business guys I know, but a lot of my connections are ministry people. And when we talk, I always like to relate to our audience. I think there's this idea of what it means to be a pastor or a youth pastor, and like what life is like and stuff like that. And I think there's something to be said of just the entrepreneurial spirit of most pastors and youth pastors, and pastors in general. Because what are we doing? We're seeking to reach people. We're being creative and innovative. We're trying to, again, just get the gospel to whoever God's called us to. And, going apart from just ministry, you've now stepped into the nonprofit space and, as a missionary. And if that was a secular thing, what you just did was start your own business. You're trying to set this up. You've got to get your own paycheck. You've got to go out and get, clients, if you will. While there's a difference, there is so many similarities between, what you do, what you're doing, just starting a nonprofit like that and things of that nature, and then also just starting a business and operating in that way, the stress that's involved, the schedule, the demand, the creativity, the innovation, the good days, the bad days.
Yeah.
And we all face that, and as Christian men it can be difficult at times, but it requires exactly what you're talking about, just faith, because God's going to come through.
That's right.
I don't know how, but if he's called you to it, he's going to come through to make it happen, because it's for his glory, but you got to do it by faith. Now, the people that we often miss, or not forget, I don't think we ever forget, but sometimes we just miss because we get so focused on what we're trying to accomplish for God or with God, and we often forget those that are closest to us. What's over these 25 years of ministry, and now, in your nonprofit space and working for Send Relief, like, what's that been like for you all? Like, how have you found rhythm as a family and investing into your marriage and into your kids' lives? Because it sounds like a great relationship. Excuse me, God's blessed, things are going well. Like, what's that looked like for you in being able to balance that? And maybe some times when, if you're like me, it was out of balance at one point. Right?
Oh, for sure.
So, like, how'd life look? What'd you do to help correct that? What's some things you'd tell like a young 30-year-old getting into it all right now?
Yeah, no, that's a valid question, because it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can get things off kilter. I told somebody the other day, I said, I feel like, especially in doing what I'm doing right now in life, it's like juggling. Juggling's not a problem until until something gets out of balance. And and so I have to make sure that I stay in balance. But there have been times early on in ministry and life and marriage that things were out of balance, and it almost becomes the martyr syndrome, to where, but I'm doing all this for Jesus, and this is my focus, this is my call. But there were times I forgot that my first ministry was to my wife and to my family, and if I can't minister to them, then I have no business ministering to anybody else. And there were times I'm speaking from the stage or from a pulpit about how amazing my wife or my family is, and I'm not pouring into them. I'm not showering scripture over their lives. I'm not doing the things as a man's supposed to do, not as just as a pastor, but as a man that we're supposed to be doing with our family. And in fact, it came to a head at one point when I was decaying spiritually inside. I was so busy doing ministry that I wasn't pouring into my own spiritual life. That my wife said, you say all these things from the pulpit or from the stage, but you don't say any of these things to me personally, one-on-one. And it's just like, and that was a wake up call. And it took a little while for me to really grasp that. But man, I was almost using my love for her as something to make people go, oh, or as an illustration to make it was about me. It was about me looking good. And I wasn't really pouring into that. And my story, and there's some things from 18, 19 years ago that the Lord really walked me and my wife through that's probably for another time. But that season of life taught me about balance that has to happen before I can become the proper vessel of ministry outside of the four walls of my house. And so it was a blessing to have that. But I'll tell you that one of the greatest things, again, as people were pouring into my life and giving me thoughts of ministry and how I'm supposed to do things, they were very, very adamant about my time with family and time with my wife. And even to the point, somebody said, and this is what I do to this day, and I give this advice out to other people, is even to the point where you schedule that time to the point where it's on your calendar, it's on your reminders, because it's not because they're just another appointment, it's a priority.
Yeah.
And
you are speaking, man, you're preaching to the choir, brother. So we, Men After God, we are we have our podcast, we have our Facebook community. Guys, if you're not a part of our Facebook community, head over to facebook.com/groups/Men After God. And we also offer coaching programs and conferences. We don't have our own planned yet. However, we're taking part in a few in 2023, and we're looking for some for 2024 to get in on, so that we can get out and get our message out, because our message is to help men achieve success with a thriving faith and family. Excuse me. And the way that we do that is by providing a framework. And so it's a coaching framework, and we call it the Become a Man After God framework for how you live your life. And it allows you to take 5 pillars of this framework and make sure that you have them all, balance, rhythm, whatever word you want to use, that you're giving them the appropriate time in a week. And those 5 things are to deepen your relationship with Jesus, devote time to your family, develop yourself, deliver value to others, and do nothing for Jesus. Putting a focus on Sabbath rest, because I'm sure, like me, you've had some times where that was not happening.
Facts,
And by doing that right there, we're able to have that rhythm and balance. And more importantly than just making it a priority, it tells us what we can say no to as well. And I love what you said about scheduling that. There was a time when my wife didn't fully grasp that. I'm more of the planner. I've got a Michael Hyatt full focus planner. I use a 168 where I've got my entire week planned out. I have annual goals and quarterly goals. And like, that's me. The first time I looked at her and said, hey, why don't we plan some time like just for us and set that aside in the calendar? You have to schedule time with me. Like I'm someone that you just, oh boy, I did not approach this right. You know? So it took some time to get through that. But finally, what you just said there is like, it's not just another appointment. Like you're so important. I'm putting you on my calendar to ensure no one takes that time, because and guys, hear me, if you don't have something blocking that time, something will take that time.
Facts. That's 100% right.
And that has been a game changer for us as in our marriage, where I work at applying it, and because of sports schedules and things like that, it makes it more difficult for me personally. But the time with my children individually, I got 3. You know what that's like. Trying to get individual time with them can be difficult. What we've done, and maybe I'd love to hear what you did throughout the years. Every Friday night, we have 3. So the first 3 Friday nights, one of them gets to stay awake with us for about an hour and a half after their siblings go to bed. And so we just went oldest to youngest. So the first Friday night's my oldest son. Second one is my middle son. Third one is my daughter. And then the fourth one, we tell them like, hey, you're actually going to bed like 10 minutes early because this is mom and dad's Friday night. We'll watch a movie or just do whatever. And so, we've put those things into place. And it is, man, it's a game changer when you again, devote time to your family like that. What are some things you did to help spend time with, put it on your calendar or whatever it was, individually with your kids, your spouse, just whatever you want to share with us, Steve?
Yeah, dates, man, date nights, date times. I dated my daughters, still date my daughters, all the way until I give my oldest away on December 30th, man. I'm looking forward to that one more date kind of thing.
Pause for a minute. December 30th, that's when your daughter's getting married? That's my birthday. That's when we
really?
Yeah, December 30th, 2006. And so, based on the date, things are going to go well. Eventually well. Wow, that's cool, man. I don't think I've ever met anyone else that's talked to anyone who's married on that date. So
that's awesome. No, you're good. But that's the thing. I think is the date mindset. Dad dates. The week before. With my wife being a teacher, the week before school starts, she was in her classroom. She's always preparing with the kids. It's the last week of school, so my wife over the years has proven and told me that she's not somebody who enjoys a place that I feel like, I guess I could say it enjoys Disney, and but I grew up around it, and so I kind of loved it, but she's just not a fan, and so I would always take my kids every year. My parents lived down in Florida. I would take our kids down, and we would spend that week that Sarah was going to be getting prepared for school, get out of her hair, let her focus on what she needs to do. And we had a daddy vacation where we would just go and hit Disney together. And
Disney with kids, man. And there's part of that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But there's part of that did you take the grandparents to the park with you?
No, man. Like I figured it out. Like I was, So like,
listen up.
Yeah, no, like I would take. Of course, I didn't take them when they were little, but when they hit probably that late elementary to middle school time, that was super fun. Like we would stay to the park, it closed. Like we knew that if it closed at 12 o'clock, we were step on a ride at 11:59, and they had no choice but to let you finish that ride. They had to kick us out, man. So I did enjoy that, but it was that moment or those moments that let them know that there was nothing in the world more important than them. That it wasn't about spending things. We didn't spend a ton of money. Like we may go down there and go to one park or something, and but we'd save up for it, but it was something special. And I think that's one of the things, especially in the life of ministry, that somebody told me early on, to make your kids part of ministry so that they don't feel like they're having to combat with ministry for your time. And so we would do a lot of things in ministry that we took our kids to, even though they weren't old enough to go, we took them anyway. We would make part of our budget to take a college student to go to camp with us just to watch our kids certain times, but they got to experience camp life, before they were able. So it was super cool, but it sent a message that, hey, you are part of ministry. Life is ministry, and you are an important part of that. And so
that's huge, man, because I struggled with that early on. I would compartmentalize my life, and my pastor told me earlier, he's like, you got to quit. Like, you have your home time, your church time, and this. No, this is just your life. And I don't know if he said it in those words, but that's how I look back at it now. Is that's my life. My children are a part of my life. They're a big part of my life, and so they can come with me when I do things, and this, that, and the other. And I don't know if I'd call them regrets, but definitely mistakes of keeping them away from some ministry or different events or things that we had going on because they were kids. They need to go there, and I need to go do this.
Right.
And that's true with business and everything else, guys. It's your life. Let your kids be a part of your life. You want a relationship with your children? Let them get to know you and get to know them. And
that's right.
And a lot of that happens just by bringing them along on something you're doing. And so
no, I even the small things, like talking about my son loving sports, loving the arts, and all these different things. Like when he got a little bit old enough, we started doing fantasy football together. Like, I mean,
I just asked about that the other day. He saw me
dude,
working on mine.
be careful because he'll get better than you and beat you. Like, it happens. My son in a dynasty league beat me last year and won the championship, and I'm like, oh, son. We're gonna have to kick you out of this league.
No more for you. I'm in a league at our church right now, and our we didn't bet or anything, but we do have a pink unicorn shirt riding on for whoever loses. Like, we found it. It says, I suck at fantasy football, the pink unicorn. And so far I'm 3-0. So I'm really hoping and praying, like, I'm not going to be the guy, but
that's right.
I'm excited for whoever it's going to be. And
that's right. Yeah. Well, even my priorities is on my t-shirts is husband, dad, fantasy football legend.
There you go. I love
that's my priority. Yeah.
That's it. So. It's awesome, man. Well, hey, listen, we're coming up on about 45 minutes here, man. Talk a little bit more about your next gen ministry and kind of like how what your intent is with that. And because you said it's about training and equipping those that are training and equipping the next generation. And so how are you investing in that? And as you're talking about it, talk to that young dad, man, the guy that was like you and I were about 5-10 years ago, just starting out with the family, getting ready to really, like, man, I thought I was hustling and grinding then. It got, it didn't get worse, but it just intensified. Right. And so, like, what are some things that if you could go back 10 years and like tell yourself, like, hey, here you go. So share about your next gen ministry a bit, especially guys, if you're listening, I want you to hear this. And if your church or your community or yourself would benefit from partnering with Steve, we're going to have his contact info and everything in our show notes. Make sure to reach out to him or share it with your pastor. Let him know about it. Bring Steve in there. I'm sure he'd love to connect with you on that. And then Steve, just talk to that young dad, man, and that thinks he's in the middle of it, but he's really just getting started.
Yeah, no, well, Mission NextGen again is not about Steve White. It's something that's bigger than that. It's ministry to the next generation, to those who are serving them, and that doesn't mean just within the walls of the church. I mean, I find myself serving in mentor positions at local high schools. Or at local arts groups. Like, there's a place called Inspire Studios that I go in. I'm a character coach. I go in and talk about characteristics in their life and how they can do these things, and it leads to gospel conversations and so things like that are happening. But I'm telling you, for that man that is sitting there listening to this thinking, oh, this is just about church, this is just about ministry stuff, and I can't relate to this. Listen, ministry starts with you as a dad and as a husband, and that is where it goes. Ministry like Mission NextGen is here to come alongside of you and to walk with you, to reinforce the things as parents that you need to know in reaching this generation. This is a unique generation that we probably haven't seen a generation like this since back at the hippie generation, back back during the Jesus Revolution times. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie,
I haven't watched that yet, man. I hear I need to. And I'm gonna have to really do.
Yeah, you have to, and if nothing else, just to know the history side of things, but or even just to get to know this generation just in a different time, and because there's so many things that this generation is misunderstood about. If you really just take time to get to know them, they are probably on the cusp of being renamed from a lost generation to the revival generation. And
actually, at the time of this recording, I just saw Auburn down at Auburn. Yeah. I mean, Auburn of all places. God obviously redeems everybody, but 200 people were baptized down there, man.
Yeah,
Kentucky revival that happened just last year, and it's all in this next generation. It's all in that Gen Z area generation, maybe young millennial, but Gen Z definitely.
Yeah, you're facts.
That's absolutely what's taking place, and I love it. I love seeing it, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see that. And so, but we get the opportunity to reach this generation. I mean, when I look at what scripture talks about in Psalm 145, it says one generation shall praise the works of another, to one another, basically of the mighty acts of God. And the reason for that is so that they will know how awesome and how mighty our God is. And so they can tell the next generation that comes after them, and so on and so on. And so we want to create that kingdom mindset, and of all of us working together as churches, as the community, as the body of Christ, to reach this generation so that they can speak of the mighty acts of God in their lives, and with salvation first and the discipleship and their growth process, and then take on the next generation after them. And so we're doing that through so many different ways with like I said, empowering young pastors, and empowering teachers, empowering coaches, anybody that works with this next generation, parents alike. That's our goal, is to say, hey, we want to equip you, walk with you, even disciple you to the place where you can help inspire this next generation. And again, with doing it from a missionary perspective, we have the opportunity to reach the small church, so to speak. A lot of the larger churches are like, hey, this isn't something that we necessarily need. But I always tell them, hey, you can empower a missionary like me to go and help empower a small church that doesn't have the budget that you have, or doesn't have the resources that you have. I mean, I want to resource them through guys like you. I want to resource them through ministries that I'm connected with that will help give them discipleship experience that will change the heart of this next generation. And so I'm excited about that. But I do know this, that who I was 10 years ago, I would have never thought I would be doing what I'm doing.
Oh man, I feel that. Yeah.
And it's exciting to see, and it's honestly what I've prayed for without even realizing it, because I always pray that God would move in such a way that I can only point towards Him as the author and creator of whatever I'm doing, that it's not me, and the things that we've seen through Mission NextGen and the people that we've been able to walk with, and to help get them to a place where they need to be, whether it be on a ministry side of things, or whether it be in their family or their business. Man, we can only point towards God as the author and creator of those things. So
absolutely. Love it, man. Love it. Steve, bro, thanks so much for today. So much value. You guys that are listening, Steve has just really brought it out. I hope you will connect with him on Facebook. Hey, Steve, what's the best way for our guys to get in touch with you? Social media handles, email, website, what do you got?
Yeah, so our website's missionnextgen.com. You can go there and connect with us there. You can email me direct, steve@missionnextgen.com. And then our follows, you can go at Mission NextGen on Twitter, or whatever it's called, X.
We don't tweet now. We send messages to each other. I don't know.
I don't know anyway.
Elon's a billionaire. He knows more than I do, but I don't.
100%. Yeah, I'm hoping he's listening to this and he'll make a donation to Mission NextGen. Yeah, there you go. But no, all Instagram, that's the same thing, at Mission NextGen, and then and Facebook, you can look me up, as well as our social media stuff there. We hope to grow our social media aspect, but man, I've been so busy with so many different things. It's like, man, I need a Gen Zer to come and do all my social media for me, all my TikToks, everything. So
yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, hey, if there's one of you guys listening, sounds like there's an open position here. So wonderful. All right, Steve, thanks so much for your time today, man. It's been awesome. I'm going to talk to our guys for a minute. Hey, listen up. Steve's got this focus on the next generation. As husbands and fathers, there's a next generation sitting in your own home. He's trying to equip not just pastors and lay leaders in churches, but he's also going to be equipping husbands, moms, and just any of you all out there that are listening to impact those kids that are in your home. You as a father are called to be to love your family, to love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Don't get so consumed with the success that you can achieve in life that you neglect the greatest success you could ever have of being that present husband and father in your own home. Take time with them. Make time for them. One of the greatest takeaways you should have from this interview here is to schedule that time with your family. You can say, Dustin, I don't make a schedule. Okay, well, there's problem number one. We got to work on that. But even if you don't, just text your wife, hey, Friday, 6 p.m., we're doing this. Talk to your son. Hey, on Saturday, I'm going to take you to breakfast. Just schedule it, plan it, and then tell other people about it so they don't try to take your time. All right, guys. Hey, listen, our Men After God podcast, you can find us on Facebook.com/Men After God podcast, Facebook.com/groups/Men After God. And if you'd like to become a founding member, this is open until January of 2024. Founding member package is $8.33 a month for 12 months. It's total of $99.96. You get exclusive content whenever we record those extra episodes. You get access to 4 free coaching calls with me. You get access to a coaching call with a fitness and training coach, a finance coach, and then also our relationship coach. You get a free piece of merch from our store, which as the time of this recording, we had just some brand new merch dropped with some hats and some shirts, and we've got hoodie, and we got a great hoodie because this will be out during the winter time. Definitely check that out. FaithfulShirtsCustom.com/Men After God is where you can find our material there. But you get a free piece of merch from our store. You get a signed copy of my book that launches in 2024. And then also you are committing to invest into this movement that wants to impact men to achieve success with a thriving faith and family, which is going to have a generational impact. And we're just praying for God to do great things. And we thank you that are already founding members for your prayer support and for your financial support. Steve, thanks again, brother. Everyone else, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Men After God podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and keep up with the show by following us at Facebook.com/Men After God. You can also reach out to Dustin personally at Dustin@seekconsulting.us with any questions or for coaching on being a man after God. Until next time.